Knowing how to manage your money is an important skill that everyone has to master. But especially as an immigrant or as an international student who just moved to the US and you're navigating life in the US for the first time, it is crucially important. Especially because finance and money management in the US is quite different from a lot of other countries around the world. I came to the US as an international student a few years ago, and I remember how overwhelmed I personally felt when I started learning about the different types of credit cards and the different types of loans. If you are in that same situation, this video is going to be a one source of truth about everything you need to know to get started managing your money. I'll be sharing the personal finance tips that I learned and I have applied since being in the US that has helped me manage my money and prevented me from going broke. Starting from the top, the first thing you will need when you come to the United States is a bank account. There are two types of bank accounts in the US. There's the checkings account and there's the savings account. The difference between the two of them is a checkings account is one that you just use for transaction. Money can come into this account and you can spend money from that account. Whereas a savings account is intended for you to accumulate money and grow money in it. One of them, ideally the savings account, would have a higher interest rate intended to grow your money. Whereas many checkings accounts don't have interest rates. They are intended to be used for getting money in and getting money out. Now, as an international student, when you walk into a bank in the United States for the first time to open a bank account, depending on what type of visa that you have when you come into the United States, you may not be able to open a checking account with all banks in the US. There are some banks in which you would need a social security number, or you will need some form of maybe a green card or to be a citizen before you can open an account with those banks. But not all banks are like that. There are other banks, for example, I know Bank of America is one bank where you can walk in and open a checking account with your visa. When you're looking for a bank to open a checking account with, you want to look for these things. Zero maintenance fees. This will ensure that you're not just paying the bank to keep your money in it. Nobody has time for that. And there are many banks that have zero maintenance fees, or they'll be willing to waive it for you after you meet certain requirements, maybe length of time that you have the account. Second thing you want to be looking for is a bank that has a wide ATM network. So you don't want to be stranded. Let's say you're in the airport, you need to withdraw money, or you're on a road trip and you need some cash. You want a bank that has wide ATM access so that you have access to your money at any time. Lastly, look for a bank that will offer you sign-up bonuses. There are some banks that will give you something for free for opening the bank account. Never say no to free things in the US. Always say yes, as long as it works for you. After you have your checkings account, the next bank account that you need is a savings account. When you're looking for a savings account, you want to look for a bank that gives you the highest interest rate possible. There are many banks, for example, I know that about Marcus by Goldman Sachs, that will give you as high as 4.5% APR on your money. So go for the highest interest rate that you can get. Many national banks that you see maybe in your neighborhood, they also offer savings accounts, but the interest rate that they offer is not as high. Other online bank savings account. Of course, do your due diligence on these banks. Make sure that the savings account has no monthly fees, has free transfer, and that your money is FDIC insured. This is very key because if you're keeping your money in a savings account and you are being charged every single time you want to transfer your money out of the account, over time, you lose money if you transfer your money very frequently. So look for a bank that has no transfer fees, easy access to your money, FDIC insured, and has the highest interest rate. Once you open your checkings account, you want to ask your bank for a credit card and a debit card. Now let's talk about credit in the US. Credit is a very big part of living in the United States. And this is something that I struggled with because I came from a country where there's no access to credit. Every time you want to make a purchase in my country, you have to pay with cash, with money. You need to have enough money to fund your life. Whereas in the US, credit is the way of life here. In fact, if you choose to not use credit, it may work against you in the long run. If you're someone that plans to stay in the US for a long time, this is something you need to be very aware of. America runs on credit, not on cash. Cash is not king. Credit is king. Your credit score is king. If you're even wise, when it comes to dating and marrying, you want to know someone's credit score. But that's another video. Let's stay on topic. Before we talk about credit cards, let's talk about credit score. In the United States, credit scores range from 300 being the low end to 850 the high end. So if you find somebody that has a credit score of 850, that person is doing a great job. Now, when you come into the United States for the first time and you have no credit history, bare minimum, all you need to know about credit score, no matter what you do, remember this about credit score. The higher your credit score, the better your life will be in the US, in the sense that if you have a high credit score, you have low interest rates, which means that when you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you want to take any form of loans, maybe a student loan or anything like that, you will get the lowest rate. And low interest rate means that you are saving money on interest expense. You are not giving your money free to the bank because they offered you credit. Your credit score is made up of 5 things. And in order of priority, the first one is your payment history. Your payment history makes up 35% of your score. What that means is, if you have any form of credit, any form of debt, if you make your payment on time and you do not miss any debt payment, you are good on this front. Your credit history is the most critical part of your credit score. So whatever you do, do not miss a debt payment. And there are many ways that you can make sure you don't miss a debt payment. You can set an alarm on your phone. You can have it on your calendar or on your banking app or any other app that you use to manage your money. You can set up automatic payment on your credit card. This way, you never ever miss a payment. And if you do miss a payment, call the bank, call them and beg and cry and tell them,
I'm an international student. I'm an immigrant. I don't know anything about credit scores. Please have mercy upon me.
That's a joke, but it's also true. Many times, if you have had good payment history, the bank will forgive the first time or maybe the second time that you miss a payment, but make sure that you never ever miss a payment. The second factor contributing to your credit score is your utilization rate. Utilization rate makes up 30% of your credit score. Your utilization rate is the ratio of how much money you owe versus how much credit you have. Credit basically is the amount of money that somebody, the bank, is willing to offer you. How much you owe is the amount of that credit that you have taken. Many credit cards have what they call a credit limit. When I first came into the United States, my credit limit was $700. If I go out immediately after I get the credit card and I spend $350 out of my $700 credit, my utilization rate is what? 50%. 350 divided by 700. So there's a difference between your credit and your credit limit. Now, when you open a credit card, your bank will give you a credit limit. They might give you 1,000, they may give you 2,000 or 500, depending on your circumstances. Don't get too happy. A very good rule of thumb to follow to make sure your utilization rate is in a good position is to not use more than 30% of your credit limit. So let's say you get a credit card and your credit limit on that credit card is $1,000. If you want to stay in good shape with your credit score, no matter what you do not use more than $300 out of the $1,000. Hope you see how the payment history and your utilization makes up 65% of your credit score. What this is telling you is that if you get these two right, if you don't use more than 30% of your credit limit, and if you make at least your minimum payment on time and you never miss any payments, your credit score will be perfect. Third factor contributing to your credit score is your length of credit. This length of credit factor contributes 15% to your credit score. Something you can do nothing about. It is basically the length of time that you have used credit. Somebody who was born in the United States, whose parents got them their first credit card at the age of 15, and they are now 65. That person has had 50 years of using credit in the US. That person is more likely to have a higher credit score than you, who just came into the United States because they've been here longer. They've used their credit longer. What this means for you is, the earlier the better. When you come to the United States, don't have the mindset of,
oh my God, I don't want to have anything on credit. I don't want to borrow money from anyone.
You are only messing with yourself. Even if you don't want to buy anything on credit, get a credit card, use it to buy groceries and pay it off every week. That's fine. By doing that, you have a credit card. You are building up credit history for yourself because you may not need that money now. But let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you decide to buy a house and you want to get a mortgage, then your credit score will matter. And if you have a 600 credit score, a 500 credit score, something lower, you are going to regret turning your nose up against credit. Don't hate the game, just learn how to play it. Your length of credit, the only thing you can do about it is get in the game early. And once you're in the game, stay in the game. The fourth factor contributing to your credit score is the type of credit that you get. So not all credit is created equal. There are different types of credit. There's mortgage, there's car payments, personal loans, so just random payday loans, right? There's normal credit card, there's like store credit. So you know when you go to a store like Old Navy or something and they offer you their credit card, that is a type of credit. You know when you're buying AirPod Max from Apple and they offer you Apple Card or something, that's a type of credit. So not all credits are created equal. There's like good debt. So for example, mortgage is good debt because it's a longer period of time, it's kind of more stable versus like payday loan. So pay attention to the type of credit that you're taking, but this is just 10% of your credit score, so don't sweat it too much. And the last factor that's contributing to your credit score is credit inquiries. This contributes 10% of your credit score. A credit inquiry happens every single time someone checks your credit history. So every single time that you accept any form of credit. So as I was saying earlier, you go to Apple Store to buy the new iPhone and they offer you a payment plan and you accept. Immediately you accept, they have to check your credit history. They have to check your credit score so they can determine a good interest rate to give you. Every single time that someone pulls your credit history, your credit score takes a hit. This, I feel many people forget about it, especially if you shop a lot. You go to Old Navy today and they offer you their card and you say yes. And tomorrow you go to Macy's and they offer you their store card and you say yes. And you're on Amazon next week or IKEA and you're buying something and they offer you installment payments and you say yes. What happens is that all these people are pulling on your credit, and as the more they make inquiries on your credit, it pulls it down. But again, this is just 10% of your credit and typically it bounces back. Let's say I open a new form of credit today. Maybe I'm buying AirPods and I accept instrumental payments from Apple. My credit score typically will see a decrease in that month because Apple did a credit inquiry on me. But as long as I don't have credit inquiries every day of the month, by next month most times you will notice that your credit score would have bounced back. So 2 things that are within your control and that you need to pay absolutely critical attention to is your payment history and your utilization rate. Going back to credit cards, you already know about credit and credit score. Credit cards, you can get it from your bank. You can get store credit cards, so like from Apple or Macy's or any of these other stores. I advise against getting so many credit cards. The reason is because the more credit cards that you get, the easier it is for you to forget to make a payment. The easier it is for you to just get random credit cards with different interest rates, and before you know it, you've racked up money different places that you don't need and you're stuck making payments on like 5 different cards. My advice is find 1 or 2 credit cards that have good features like 0 APR. The first time that you get it, you get 0 APR. That is 0 interest on the card as long as you make the minimum payment every month. So if you get that kind of card, and there are many other credit cards that you can get, and I'll make a video later about different credit cards that you can get 1 or 2 credit cards and then pay close attention to them. And the way to use credit cards responsibly in the US, as I've said, is number 1, not use more than 30% of your credit limit. Always pay off your card in full every month at the minimum. And if you cannot pay it in full, pay the minimum payment every month and do not miss a payment. Simple as ABC. The other thing you want to pay attention to when you come to the US for the first time is budgeting. The worst thing that can happen to you as an international student or an immigrant is to run out of money. Someone that grew up in the US or is from the US, they have family here, they have friends, they have people who love them and know them for many years. If they ever go broke, they can always run to their parents or run to their friends and borrow money. But many times as an international student or an immigrant, you are moving to the US by yourself, you don't have family here, and you may have friends in the US, but you just met them maybe a year ago or 2 weeks ago, right? The relationship is not deep enough for you to be broke and you to, borrow money from them. So no matter what you do, do not go broke. Homelessness is real. Do not go broke in the US. I'm sure you probably already know this. You pay credit, you pay your rent every month, you pay your bills every month. If you ever go broke, what that means is that you are not able to pay your bill. And if you're not able to pay your bills, very bad. You don't want it to happen. And the way to not let it happen is by budgeting. Budgeting is so important. If budgeting was not a regular practice for you from wherever country you're coming from, in the United States, except you have so much money, and if you're very rich and you're already very wealthy, maybe this video is not for you. But if you're watching this video and you're an international student, you're not very rich, you're not very wealthy, or you want to, just be wise with your money, you need to learn how to budget. I have made multiple videos at this point about how I manage your money. I'll link them in the description box. I'll link them up here for you to go and watch. Very simple gist is, immediately you get into the United States, pay attention to your expenses. Record everything that you are spending. How much are you spending on rent? How much are you spending on food, on transport, on subscription, on looking pretty, on taking care of yourself, on shopping? Record every single thing that you are spending and then monitor it, okay? Wherever your income source is, maybe you are working or you are a student, you're living on a stipend or anything else, make sure that your expenses stay within the recommended limit. Recommended limit is 50, 30, 20. 50% of your income, whatever money that you have, should be spent on needs. Electricity, transport, needs. 30% should be spent on wants, so shopping, summer. The remaining 20% of your money should be saved, and you should have emergency savings. You need to begin to build up your emergency savings, cause don't go broke. When you come to the US, especially if you are a student, you are very lucky. You will get a lot of student discounts. There are many stores, many places in the US where if you go there with a student ID card, they'll offer you discounts. Apple is one of them. Amazon is one of them. Did I say Apple again? Public transport, museums, theaters, right? Newspapers. There's so many. If you're an international student, make it your job. Be dedicated to finding discounts. If you go anywhere, have the audacity to ask them if they have a student discount. You go to a restaurant, do you have a student discount? Say with a smile. Do you have a student discount? Accept every discount that you can get. You won't be a student forever. I know this because I'm no longer a student. So while you are a student, enjoy it, use it, save the extra money so that when you are no longer a student, you'll be balling. And last thing you need to be aware of is insurance, especially medical insurance. And again, this is for the students. Many of the schools in the US will require you to have medical insurance, and then they'll offer you different options that students commonly use. You need to be aware that many of those options that they offer you is what American students commonly use. It's typically more expensive. If you don't have any extenuating health circumstances, you may not need the most expensive bells and whistles medical insurance that you can get. Ask the international students in your school. Shop around and find, insurance that is tailored to international students. That was one way that I saved about $2,000 every quarter when I was in school, because I used a cheaper international student medical insurance. I still had all the benefits. I was able to go to the same hospitals that other students can go, but I was saving money on my insurance premium. So don't just accept every option that is presented to you. How much will it cost you? And then shop around and make sure you are getting the best rate. Stay sharp and do not go broke. If you enjoyed this video, then my video about how to get started managing your money will be very helpful to you, and I will link that here for you to watch. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.